Let's bring in Dr. William Rosenberg, professor of political science at Drexel University, among other things, co-author of News Verdicts, The Debates and Presidential Campaigns, and he is tweeting at Dr. B. Rosenberg. Bill, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning.
How do people usually view the State of the Union address? A recent poll I saw showed that a pretty good percentage of the country will be watching tomorrow night, and I wonder if this is usually the kind of attention we see devoted to a State of the Union address, first or otherwise.
Well, one of the things we have to realize is that the State of the Union address is something that's constitutionally mandated. The president each year is required to report on the State of the Union. What is particularly interesting about the State of the Union this year is that President Trump has had a interesting relationship with both the public and the media in communicating his messages. The State of the Union address gives the president about an hour to go directly to the American public with a very large audience. I think not necessarily the State of the Union, but the president's address, which is given during the first year, and after that each year, it's called the State of the Union. He had over 49 million people last year, so he's got quite a big audience. And he's able to send out his thoughts, ideas, messages very directly, almost like he does with his tweets, but he's able to do it in such a way that he's able to, not only put words down, but also give his personality in as well. And I think what's going to happen is the president is going to deliver his speech. Afterwards, there's going to be analysis of what we often call in politics pitch and spin. He's going to make his pitch, and then it's going to be spun by spin doctors, both the left and the right, by cable channels that are both like Fox News and MSNBC and CNN, and they're going to set the dynamics of what the president actually meant by what he said. Interestingly, it looks that President Trump is not going to do what many presidents do in recent history, is go out on a campaign-style tour giving speeches at rallies to sort of get the public behind the messages that he's going to be talking about tomorrow night in terms of his agenda, in terms of legislation, and his view not only of the United States but the world as well. So he's missing perhaps an opportunity to further press his agenda, but at the same time, tomorrow night he's going to have a clear path to the public.
I'm glad you made that distinction between the speech that he gave last year, which was his first in front of the joint session, but it was not considered a State of the Union address. This one is. Report card. I was looking back at State of the Union addresses past, and it seemed like, and let's just take President Obama, his first year in 2010, his first official State of the Union address was about the economy. Now, we had just come out of the greatest economic disaster in this country since the Depression, and I wonder if, but is domestic policy pretty much the main thrust, or does it sort of go in waves?
Well, I think there's no question that tomorrow night we're going to hear about the Dow being at a record high, that unemployment rates being at significantly low, if not the lowest rates in quite some time. That's going to be one of the accomplishments that has occurred over this past year. So I think that when he talks about the State of the Union, he has to talk about that, not only because it's good news on his sort of watch, but also good news for America. One of the things, though, that we should also recognize is that this good news for America is also good news around the world. Not necessarily that the United States caused this or the Trump presidency caused it, but the world has greatly recovered economically over the past year, and it's going in a very positive direction. So he has the opportunity, if he chooses, to talk about not just domestic politics and domestic economies, but international economies. The question is whether or not he really wants to do this. We have to recognize he just came back from Davos, and a lot of people were concerned that he was going to do his America First mantra. And what he ended up saying, I believe, over there was, America, as president, I'm going to do what's best for America, but we also want other parts of the country to come, other parts of the world to participate with us, to be our partners. At the same time, we're seeing what happened in Davos with the Chinese sort of almost taking the lead in terms of economics and politics, being well received by many countries throughout the world. And, their concept of is it called the road and the belt, where they're giving not only economic aid but technical aid, political support all around the world, is a time in which the United States may be losing its grasp of world power in such a way that's positively received, and it going to China.
Dr. Bill Rosenberg, professor of political science at Drexel University, joining us the State of the Union tomorrow night. And usually the response is a thankless job. I remember, of course, we had this Bobby Jindal, the governor of Louisiana, had this moment where he looked kind of deer in the headlights at the bottom of some kind of a staircase. Marco Rubio had his famous water moment. There was that other time when we had several Republicans, including we had Michelle Bachmann giving her own address, even though the Republican address was given by somebody else under President Obama, and she sort of was looking at a different camera. We have two competing in a way. Maxine Waters evidently is going to be doing her own response, but the chosen Democrat to deliver the response is a congressman, and the name is familiar. This is it's going to be Representative John Kennedy, or it's going to be Joe Kennedy, I guess, who's the great nephew of the former president. What's your thought on that?
Well, this won't be the first time that a Kennedy has given this address. In 1982, Ted Kennedy was one of a group of people that gave the response to Ronald Reagan's presidential address. I think the idea, though, behind choosing the young Kennedy is that it's almost like a turning of the page. We're having a young politician, a Democrat, with a family tree that's quite well recognized by the public. And he's going to be talking about, from his perspective, the failures of this first year of the Trump administration. So I think the Democratic Party is looking for its future all-stars. If you think back that these types of opportunities, like giving the rebuttal to the President's State of the Union speech or giving a speech at the Democratic National Conventions, have been launch pads. If you think back just a few years ago when Barack Obama gave his speech at the Democratic National Convention. So it's a way that he can personally increase his star power, but also increase the vision of how Democrats have young, up-and-coming political leaders who were ready to step on the big stage.
I just wonder, though, Bill, I kind of thought that 2016 was about anti-dynasty feeling. Didn't want another Clinton, didn't want another Bush. And I wonder also, does the name Kennedy resonate that much with the young people who are going to be shaping the votes for 2020? I mean, John F. Kennedy was a long time ago. Ted Kennedy died in 2009. I mean, we're talking about a party that I wonder if this is looking at the past too much to try to sort of get set for the future.
Well, I agree with you on several levels, although I would say that perhaps some of this is tied to an age bias that some of us may have, because we remember Ted Kennedy, we remember maybe Bobby and even John Kennedy for some people. For younger people, it's a historic name. It's not necessarily a name that they directly related to. So, it's a branding, but at the same time, it's got the linkage to the past, but at the same time, it has sort of a message for the future. And I think that's the reason why he was chosen.
All right. We're going to see how it turns out. Dr. Bill Rosenberg, is always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Dr. William Rosenberg, professor of political science, Drexel University, joining us to talk about the State of the Union and other politics playing into it. At Dr. B. Rosenberg is where he's tweeting. At Dr. B. Rosenberg, Rosenberg.